Parliament buildings.
Madam Speaker informed the House that the nomination papers of the elections were available at the chamber reception desk, main entrance to the chamber, and that the filled nomination papers should be submitted to the office of the clerk of the National Assembly not later than Monday, 22nd July 2024 at 16 hours. In that regard, Madam Speaker urged members to be on time and prepare adequately for the IPU AGM.
And in the other announcement, Madam Speaker did say that it has become to Madam Speaker informed the House that it had come to her attention that honorable members who sought permission to attend the sittings of the House or committee meetings virtually were not adhering to the laid down procedures.
Madam Speaker guided the House that once permission had been granted for a member to attend a sitting of the House or committee meeting virtually, the member was expected to have the camera of his or her electronic device on during the entire sitting or meeting, and his or her image should be displayed on the screen in the chamber.
Madam Speaker urged the House to refer to the regulations on the virtual attendance circulated at all members through the circular dated 9th July 2024.
In that regard, Madam Speaker stated that a member who would not observe the rules of virtual attendance would be deemed to be absent from the sittings for all intents and purposes.
Thereafter, Madam Speaker did render one ruling. Madam Speaker reminded the House that on Thursday, 27th June 2024, when the House was considering questions for oral answer number 376, and Mr. Andrew Tayengwa, Member of Parliament for Kawata constituency, was on the floor. Honorable J.J. Nkombo MP, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, raised on a point of order as to whether Mr. Bim Kundu, Member of Parliament for Kana constituency, was in order to deliberately and willfully mislead the House when he stated that the minister had directed councils to spend 100,000 United States dollars to purchase ambulances.
Madam Speaker informed the House that the point of order raised the issue of a member's duty to ensure that the information he or she provided to the House when debating was factual and verifiable in accordance with Standing Order 71 1B of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024.
Madam Speaker further informed the House that in order to determine whether Mr. Bim Pundo made the alleged statement, shared recourse to the verbatim record over the proceedings over the material day, which revealed that Mr. Bim Pundo MP in his debate made the alleged statement.
In rendering her ruling, Madam Speaker took cognizance of the fact that despite Mr. Bimbo Mpundu MP being accorded an opportunity to produce evidence to support, he did not avail to the office of the Speaker any documentary or content evidence as envisaged by Standing Order 71.
And in that regard, Madam Speaker found Mr. Bim Kundu MP in clear violation of Standing Order 71B of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024, and therefore ruled him to be out of order.
But after that ruling, the House went on to consider urgent matters without notice. The following urgent matters without notice under Standing Order 142 were raised. The first matter did come from Reverend Given Katuta, who is Chiengi Member of Parliament, and her subject matter was on whether the Office of the Vice President carried out consultations before inviting applications for land in various resettlement schemes in the country. This matter was inadmissible.
And the second one did come from Mr. Francis Kampianga, who appears to be Pika Central Constituency Member of Parliament, on the subject matter on the planned protest by the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions following government's proposed amendments to the Employment Code number 3 of 2019 rather. And this one was admissible. The Minister of Labour and Social Security directed to issue a ministerial statement on Friday, 19th July 2024.
And the last matter did come from Mr. Alex Katakwe, who is Solwezi East Member of Parliament. His subject matter was on government's position concerning the Mukanda traditional ceremony, and this matter was inadmissible.
And we had one ministerial statement. The Minister of Health made a ministerial statement on the delivery of medicines and medical supplies, and briefed the House on the strategies devised to stabilize the availability of medicines and medical supplies in the public health supply chain.
And thereafter, the House considered question for oral answer number 388, understanding order 82.
Thereafter, the House also did consider a motion which was moved by Mr. Kali Mandandi, who is a Sioma Member of Parliament, urging the House to adopt the report over the Committee on Government Assurances for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Friday, 4th July 2024. And this particular motion was seconded by Mr. Emmanuel Tembo, who is a Fera constituency Member of Parliament.
And it being 18:25 hours, Madam First Deputy Speaker interrupted the proceedings, and the debate on the motion stood adjourned, and so we do expect consideration of this motion to resume today. The House adjourned accordingly at 18:27 hours. That's the business that was considered yesterday on the floor of the House. We now shift our attention to today's order paper, and on today's order paper we do expect some announcements to be made. We also expect the House to consider urgent matters without notice, and we expect Her Honor the Vice President to render a ministerial statement on the alleged corruption at the Anti-Corruption Commission.
And we also have presentations of our government bills. The Minister of Transport and Logistics will move, the Minister of Transport and Logistics will move. The House will also consider the Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2024. So this bill seeks to amend the Civil Aviation Authority Act of 2012.
And the other one will be the Civil Aviation Amendment Bill to amend the Civil Aviation Act 2016, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2024. We also expect the House to consider one question for oral answer, understanding order 80, and this question is question 389. We will give you the details of this question at a later stage, Joe.
Yeah, so we also expect the House to consider one motion, and this motion will be moved by Mr. Freddy Jatila Momba MP. As you can see on the screen, Madam Speaker's procession making its way into the chamber. We cross to the chamber for the live parliamentary proceedings.
Madam Speaker.
And sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our right. We want freedom's fight, oh, and strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, passion we
God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people. We beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to all the honorable members. I have two announcements to make. Honorable members, I wish to acquaint the House with the presence in the Speaker's Gallery of the following honorable members of the Standing Committee, House of Chiefs, Councillors, and staff from the Parliament of Botswana. Honorable Juliana White, MP, Leader of Delegation. Honorable Bezek Pakwana, MP, Member. Honorable Sebu Keoro Spencer, MP, Member. Mr. Bush Batsele, Staff. Mr. Wame Keftoj, Staff. I wish on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia to receive our distinguished guests and warmly welcome them in our midst. I thank you. The second announcement, honorable members, I wish to inform the House that in the quest of implementing the digital transformation agenda, members are encouraged to use electronic documents such as the order paper, bills, committee reports, and others that may be accessed on the e-chamber platform. Upon logging on to the e-chamber, members may go to the e-documents to access the said electronic documents. I thank you. We make progress. Agent matters without notice. The Honorable Member for Lumezi.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker, for permitting the voice of Lumezi to raise an urgent matter without notice, directed at Her Honor, the Vice President of the Republic of Zambia. Madam Speaker, a few days ago, the current political advisor to the Republican President, Mr. Levi Ngoma, was addressing a public gathering in Sinda district of the eastern province of Zambia, did utter words saying anyone that stands in the way of President Hakainde Hichilema Tifyanda. Madam Speaker,
meaning what, Honorable Member?
We shall squeeze or I'll crush you. Madam Speaker, this matter has not settled well, not only with your members here on your left, because this is a constitutional democracy, and the name of the person that said these words at a public rally, Madam Speaker, has been named as having been one of those suspected to having abducted Honorable Member for Petauke Central. Madam Speaker, our safety, especially that we've been talking of abductions in this country. Some of us have survived it, but we can no longer continue ignoring the issue of abductions, especially that someone working at State House can proudly say, "I'll crush you, Tifyanta," and we have not seen the police issue any statement, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is trying to silence any opposing view from your members on your left, especially that we already have one member who is yet to recover from the scars of that abduction. Madam Speaker, I seek your indulgence. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Rumezi, you are advised to come up with a question. And honorable members, when you are bringing out these issues, please try to be specific, because you brought in two issues. You are supposed to come up with one specific issue that the minister or honor the vice president is supposed to attend to. So let us try to be very specific. So you can come up with a question, or indeed you even wait for tomorrow her honor the vice president's question time. She's also around, so you can take an option that you feel like taking. The honorable member for Kabwe Central.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to ask the matter of agents, to ask the agent matters without notice. And this matter is directed on the Minister of Local Government and the Road Development, who is a very hard-working minister. Madam Speaker, I noticed that along Lusaka, Livingston Road, just near downtown there, people have turned that place to be a dumping site. And even along Independence Road, I think around near Kamwala there, you find that near a mango tree, each mango tree has got a lot of heap of garbage there.
Order, honorable members, order. The honorable member for Nakonde, you are too loud. Give the honorable member for Kabwe Central chance. It's a chance. The honorable member for Kabwe Central, you may proceed.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Now, prevention is better than cure, Madam Speaker. One of the problems that we have had in the country previously is the issue of outbreak of cholera. And it's a concern that if we do not immediately attend to that issue of garbage, we might have an outbreak of cholera. And it's a sorry sight even to the visitors when they come to visit our city. They are visited with those filthy garbages that are looking very, very horrible just to look at. So my appeal is the Minister of Local Government, who is very hardworking, and I know that they have even awarded the contracts to people who are doing routine maintenance around Lusaka. Is in order not to make sure that these contractors, if they are there, they are held accountable to remove the garbage, or to make sure that Lusaka City find a way of removing the garbage, which is really making our city looking very dirty. Madam Speaker, is in order to keep quiet, not to attend to this urgent matter. That if we don't attend, we might have an outbreak of cholera. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. Again, looking at the criteria for urgent matters, that garbage was not put to yesterday. This is a problem that has been there for quite some time, so it does not qualify under urgent matters without notice. You can put in a question, honorable member for Kabwe Central. It is an important matter that needs to be addressed before, as soon as possible. The honorable member for Chiruvi.
Madam Speaker, thanks so much. My urgent matter without notice was naturally directed at the Minister of Mines and the Minister of Home Affairs, but looking around, they are not around. I will direct it to the Vice President. My urgent matter without notice, Madam Speaker, first let me declare interest that Chingola is my birthplace, and I think I understand Chingola's topography very well and the culture there. Yesterday there was a riot in Chingola, and that riot, please. Activity was sold to a Chinese. Madam Speaker, I'm getting worried that the culture of riots seem to be rising up from one town to the other. The other day, we had 2 riots in Senama and Chiriaba. Then yesterday we had 1 in Chingola on different issues. I don't know, Madam Speaker, I seek your guidance, what government is doing to quell possible riots, because maybe tomorrow we'll have riots on cooking oil or meal, God forbid. So, what is government doing to quell such riots in future, especially that some of these riots are coming as a result of depriving the citizens of their economic activity?
The honorable member, if your matter is questioning the riots that you are claiming to be coming up, we had, was it a ministerial statement yesterday that was addressing a similar matter in Mansa? So I think also you can come up with a question, honorable member. If it's a specific matter for Chingola, her honorable Vice President, tomorrow, you can bring it up. We make progress. Statement. Her honor the Vice President. Order, honorable members on my left. Order, honorable members.
Madam Speaker, I wish to render a ministerial statement on a matter raised on the floor of the House on Tuesday, 15th July 2024 by the Member of Parliament for Lumezi constituency, Honorable Munia Zulu, during the session on urgent matters without notice. In his question, Mr. Zulu cited Dr. O'Brien Kaba, who is a commissioner at the Anti-Corruption Commission and also a lecturer in the School of Law at the University of Zambia. Dr. Kaba is alleged to have issued a statement containing serious revelations of how corrupt the institution had become, and also that the institution that was supposed to fight and champion the corruption fight in this country was deeply divided between the board and its management. Madam Speaker, let me respond by clarifying government's position over the matter. You may wish to note that the new Dawn administration has been very clear on the fight against the corruption. That is to say, this is what we say: past, current or present and future corruption will be fought. This is the premise upon which we were elected into office.
The honorable member for Kalulushi, can you please give her time to to deliver the ministerial statement? Honorable members, can we take this segment very serious? The people are listening out there, and we are busy chatting loudly. Can we lower our voices? Her Honor, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam. This has been re-echoed countless times by His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, and indeed my office on numerous fora. We have clearly stated that individuals engaged in corruption will face the consequences alone. Our resolve in the fight against corruption is demonstrated by the fact that we have instituted a number of measures in this regard. Let me highlight, Madam Speaker, some of the key interventions. One, revision of the anti-corruption policy. The new Dawn administration revised the National Anti-Corruption Policy in 2023. The policy provides a framework for preventing and combating corruption in a comprehensive, coordinated, and inclusive manner. We therefore remain fully committed to the principle of zero tolerance to corruption in all its forms. The policy seeks to align the Anti-Corruption Act of 2012 to the Constitution as amended in 2016. B, develop subsequential legislation for the declaration of assets and liabilities by persons holding public offices in accordance with Article 263 of the Constitution as amended in 2016. C, amend the Whistleblowers Act to strengthen it in terms of the protection in terms of the protection it offers to whistleblowers. 2, strengthening institutional capacities. Government is committed to strengthening institutional capacities of all institutions involved in the fight against corruption. In this regard, support is being provided to the law enforcement agencies, the judiciary, and oversight institutions in terms of law reform and enhanced budgetary provisions. 3, establishment of the Economic and Financial Crimes Court. To improve on the efficiency in handling corruption and other related crimes, government in January 2022 established the Economic and Financial Crimes Court, division of the High Court, to hear and determine matters relating to economic and financial crimes and corruption. The cases are now expected to be concluded within 5 months. Number 4, safeguarding operational autonomy of oversight institutions. Madam Speaker, oversight institutions such as the Office of the Auditor General, National Assembly, Office of the Public Protector, Judicial Complaints Commission, Police Public Complaints Authority, Zambia Public Procurement Authority, and the Attorney General chambers are vital to the prevention and eradication of corruption. We are committed to ensuring that these institutions operate independently to achieve their mandates. This is and has always been our commitment in the fight against corruption, and we are delivering on it. These, Madam Speaker, and other measures are a clear demonstration of government's determination to deliver an accountable and corruption-free country. Madam Speaker, concerning the alleged rift between management and the board at the Anti-Corruption Commission, government regrets the current development at the institution. This is indeed unfortunate and should not be encouraged. This notwithstanding, I I wish to state categorically that the new Dawn administration is committing to upholding the tenets of good corporate governance in all state institutions. I, therefore, have no doubt in my mind that the current perceived challenges the institution may be facing will be resolved by following good corporate governance practices and indeed the Constitution and the other laws of Zambia. Madam Speaker, I further wish to inform this august House that if there is any corruption at the Anti-Corruption Commission, government will deal with it within the confines of the law. Madam Speaker, I wish to reiterate that the new Dawn administration is fully committed to the fight against corruption, and as such, it is our expectation that SCC will carry out its mandate of fighting corruption in an expeditious and transparent manner that instills public confidence, and further, that the board and management will work as a team in the carrying out of the objectives of SCC. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to indicate that the Director General of SCC has since resigned and the board dissolved. And all I can say is that we wish the Director and the board members well in their future endeavors. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement given by Her Honor the Vice President. The Honorable Member for Dundumwezi.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Your Honor, the Vice President, thank you very much for that clear and very elaborate statement that you have given to this House and the nation at large. Your Honor, confirm to this House and the nation that the new Dawn government is very transparent in terms of fighting corruption, which happened yesterday, today, and also in future. And even the dissolution of the board is a sign enough of the need for this government to ensure that corruption is fought. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, it's one question per member. Her Honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honorable Member for Dundumwezi, who asked me to confirm that this government is fighting corruption of the past, present, and the future in a transparent manner. I thought that is the comment. And really, if it is confirmation, I truly want to confirm that we are doing everything possible to ensure that these issues of corruption are followed up to the latter in as much of transparency as we can. Maybe I end here.
The Honorable Member for Ron.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Your Honor the Vice President, thank you very much for the statement. Corruption is a sickening issue, Your Honor the Vice President, and it has been going on in our country. Your Honor the Vice President, you have alluded in your statement that the new Dawn government is seriously fighting corruption. Are you, as an executive, prepared to put all those people that have been mentioned in various corruption allegations or scandals on leave so that whoever is conducting or the anti-corruption we are conducting the investigations can do these investigations without any interference? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Her Honor the Vice President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am sure, Madam, the watch is moving, and the more they talk, and the more time we spend, and I'm happy for that. So it's up to us to listen to one another so that we can make progress, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Ron, who says corruption is sickening. I don't think I can put it any better. It is terrible. It is sickening. It is a danger to the progress of any country, and therefore must be fought by every well-meaning Zambian in the form, in the state, and from any position that we are. Yes, this government will seriously fight corruption. The question, or maybe the recommendation, is that why can't we put everybody who is mentioned in any corrupt allegation on leave so that investigations can be done properly? I think that's the way to go. Because investigating a person who is in the office, if I am named in a corrupt practice and I'm sitting here, I think anybody will understand how difficult. We know, we have seen it before. We have seen it before. You can investigate me while I'm in the office. I don't know how possible that is. But yes, I agree with you. And I think it is happening. The situation at hand today, we have seen, it may call for further investigation. That's why the Director General, I think, decided to leave. Because if the allegation is that even the institution itself, there is corruption, how can you investigate if he's going to sit in the office? And truly, it's important that in his wisdom, he chose to go, so that we can have other people, including the board. If there is a difference, we don't know exactly where this is coming from. Therefore, your suggestion is the normal way to proceed if we are going to deal with issues. When there is an allegation, you may not fire people because you have no evidence, but at least let them step aside. But if they choose to go, they will go. But tumulandu tawubola. Even if you go, if you will still be found. That is why you see cases, even if they have gone, it will still follow. So indeed, that is the way to go. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kawambwa. You had the point of order.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the past, when we were on the other side, and the immediate past Vice President would be answering and responding to us, all of us who were on that side and all ministers and deputy ministers could listen to her religiously. Is the Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports, this Kaputa MP, indisciplined as he is he in order to continue chatting behind here and disturbing us when her Honor is seriously bringing out issues which are very cardinal for him, so that he stops his corrupt activities? Is he in order, Madam Speaker?
What breach has been...
disrespecting the House and the Vice President. Madam, 71, disrespecting the House and disrespecting our Honor the Vice President. Yes.
We don't have that standing order, Honourable Member for Kawambwa. We don't have that standing order. However, Honourable members, I think let's try to give chance to our Honour the Vice President so that she can respond. The people are also interested to hear her responses. So let's try to give her space to answer. The Honourable Member for Katombola. honorable members.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I know why they are making noise, Madam Speaker. Thank you for according the people of Katombola constituency the opportunity, Madam Speaker, to ask our Honour the Vice President a question relating to corruption. Madam Speaker, corruption has been an endemic problem, particularly in the previous government. Never, Madam Speaker, never in the history of this country has Zambia ever witnessed the looting of national resources than what we saw under the PF government. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Order.
Madam Vice President, the people of Katombola are asking, when do we expect strengthened laws, particularly for people who committed atrocities? When do we expect strengthened laws on corruption? Because right now, when you look at Section 99 of the Penal Code, it's only 3 years sentence, which is very, very small. And we know that some of the ministers of PF ended up serving very little sentence. When do we expect, Madam Vice President, amendments to the law to ensure that perpetrators of corruption are punished adequately? Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Her Honour the Vice President.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Katombola for that very important question and indeed observation that corruption has been going on and it probably became endemic part of society, and that's why it's a vice, madam. It's something that cannot be, fought lightly. It is important, Honourable, as you have said, that we need, I think that's the implication. You asked a question, but implying that there is need to strengthen the laws to fight corruption. You remember I spoke of the policy in my statement. It is one, the policy that will lead to the law. So that is true. We have worked on the policy. We have to also find a way of strengthening from the policy. How do we strengthen? Remember, one of the laws that we have put in place, it's a law because it's created out of the High Court, the issue of the financial crimes. Because corruption has a lot of times to do, if not all the time, with financial crimes. Yes, what I can say, Madam Speaker, is it is issues of this nature, issues of corruption, when they come to the fore, that makes the society say, let us amend, because what we have is not working enough. So together, we should be able to propose laws. Laws are not just one side. They can be proposed from there, and they become public law, and the executive can take it. Indeed, we need to strengthen the laws so that, because the current ones may not be working properly. So we will continue together to amend. The government is aware. That's why policy has been dealt with. So I cannot give you specific dates, but we will work on this to strengthen the laws to fight corruption.
The Honourable Member for Lunte, what is your point of order?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my point of order is on the Chief Whip. I saw him, he was there, but where? Yeah. Yes, Madam Speaker. When you have an interest in the matter, you declare interest. It's common practice, is best practice. Is the Chief Whip in order to cause this conversation we are having now to happen in the presence of some members who are facilitating the corrupt consent judgments at the government, at the Attorney General's chambers. Madam Speaker, I seek your serious ruling on this matter because it is important for this House to deliberate on corruption in the absence of corrupt lawyers, Madam Speaker. I seek your ruling on this matter.
The Honorable Member for Lunte, do you have evidence? Can you please lay it on the table?
Madam Speaker, I will prepare evidence and come and lay on the table. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think the rule is that when you bring out a matter, you are supposed to lay evidence immediately. So since you don't have the evidence, you are actually out of order. You prepare your evidence when you are raising the matter. The evidence doesn't have to come after we have even finished the topic at hand. Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mukushi, just an announcement. I think for the sake of progress, I won't admit any more points of order under this question so that we make progress. We have a lot of work on the order paper. The Honorable Member for Mukushi South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Honor, the Vice President, last year, the FIC report produced a lot of money that was externalized, and none of those that were involved have been arrested. This year, 13.5 billion have been externalized. For your own information, Your Honor, the Vice President, 156 constituencies by 30 million CDF, it's 4.68 billion kwacha. So meaning the 13.5 billion that have been stolen, that have been externalized under your watch as UPND government, you have deprived the people of Zambia 3 years of CDF. What is your government doing to ensure that these people who are involved in the externalization of $13 billion, the 13 billion kwacha, are brought to book? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Before our honor comes in, honorable members, the ministerial statement was on the alleged corruption at the Anti-Corruption Commission. Let's try to be within the ministerial statement. Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Mukushi South. I think I hope I understand what you are trying to say, because you are referring to the FIC report of 2023. 2024? Okay. And, you know, the beauty, Madam Speaker...
Do you want him to repeat, Your Honor?
I think I will still speak. It doesn't matter which year. Anyway, okay. What he's saying is, to him, government has been robbed of the resource up to the tune of 13 million, which he thinks, you know, CDF, I don't know how he connects the CDF, which is 4.8. I hear you. Except, colleagues, the FIC report, although being drawn in here, is something which is not appeared for the first time. Okay? We have had this FIC report. This is where we have to be very sincere. It doesn't matter where you are. Whether you are sitting there, you are sitting here. Because the FIC report, this is not the first FIC report. Mm-hmm. And indeed, you can argue depending on where you are. Now you are saying how many have been arrested so far since this FIC report was produced. Maybe we can say how many have been arrested since they started producing the FIC report. Colleagues, the FIC report is very important. I cannot tell you how many have been arrested, because a lot of us in the FIC report, madam, we read of X and Y. Unless when the investigative wings arrest somebody who is Mr. X or Y, say this one was the X. Because I think we have heard, when a member from Kush South, we have heard institutions that investigate declare that they're already investigating. This, it's very important we continuously learn, teach ourselves, for me, and I think all of you. We look at this FIC report, madam, it talks of suspicious transactions. And the word, member of Parliament for Kaloloshi, the word suspicion, I can suspect you, but it doesn't mean that you are guilty of evidence. I can't hear equality, but whether it's quality or whatever, this is the truth, honorable members. Suspicious transaction does not mean that we, colleagues, we are in the house.
Order,
Me, I'm waiting for time
members.
to run very quickly.
Order. Order.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I just want to explain the difficulties that we find ourselves, and I think even colleagues, when they were here, they probably, you remember Fiti? I think somebody knows. You are the one who has this language. Honorable Speaker, the point is suspicious. Suspicious doesn't mean that you have already evidence. It's a red flag. Can you follow this? That's what it means. That's a
Order,
different
you've
matter.
not been given the floor, honorable
Let me
members.
speak to the FIC report. Suspicion means you investigators. We have seen in Narumango's account there is 10 million. And from what she does, we don't think she should have this money in the account. Don't bring other issues. You brought an issue here. Let's follow Honorable Munia Zulu's matter. Munia Zulu, listen to me. This is your question. Point of order, Munia. Can you sit down? Who is standing?
You can take your seat, honorable member.
Madam Speaker, I hope I'm saying something. I make it short, eh? Okay, good. Let me finish without your interruption. Suspicious simply indicates that there is something to follow. And who follows that? There should be investigative wings to follow and ensure, indeed, where did this money come from? That's where the investigation starts. FIC is not an investigative wing to have people arrested. So, our investigation wings right now, the president said, investigate them. I thought that's the way to go. You don't have to cry, no, what are you investigating? No. And indeed, we would want people investigated, evidence found, and also be arrested. That is how we are going to fight together. Colleagues, we bring things to a little fast in here. And we want to name people without evidence. The investigative wings are investigating, and if any one of us, there or here, is found, evidence is found against you, we should be able to see you or to see me prosecuted. That is the issue, sir, Mukushi South, of the FIC. It's not an investigative wing. It brings a red flag that investigations must start to adduce evidence to bring before the courts. Thank you, madam.
Order. The owner of the matter, the honorable member for Lumezi.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker. Your Honor, Madam Vice President, you've talked of transparency as being the key components to fighting corruption. You've equally told this House that the DG of the Anti-Corruption Commission resigned yesterday. We know very well that when people are corrupt, you don't allow them to resign, you fire them, and you have them arrested, prosecuted. Madam Vice President, I must mention that since the year 1964, only the last 3 years have we seen unprecedented numbers of consent judgments on matters that have not undergone any court process. That is corruption. Madam Vice President, we must be sincere when we are talking to this subject for so many reasons. We've got Dr. Abraham Kaba's statement saying state chambers involved in kickbacks. And Madam Speaker, some of those state chambers affiliated to your members in here. Could it be Tom was coerced to resign as DG because he came for those members that are being called as state chambers? Your Honor, Madam Vice President, the issue of state chambers, we are told secretly that some people from state chambers are appearing before the Anti-Corruption Commission and are still in office, no resignation, no one fired.
You can summarize your question.
Madam Vice President, what is it that we should believe from your responses, that there is transparency only when people are resigning and others from the state chambers are still occupying office as at now? Some members of this August House operate with the state chambers facilitating consent judgments. So where is the transparency, Madam Vice President? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order. Her Honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to sincerely thank the Honourable Member who brought, in fact, this question to the House, who says you say that transparency is key to the fight against corruption. But maybe we need to define transparency in an investigation. Is it to announce to the public who you are investigating and how you are investigating? Is that the transparency you want? Do you want people to say, Nalumango, we are investigating you? Is that the kind of transparency? I don't think that's what it means here. I don't think that's what it means. Transparency, yes, we will follow it. But when the issue comes to the surface, and everybody becomes suspicious, I think like it was proposed from Ron, you get rid of them, because everybody will view them with suspicion. Or they themselves, on their own, will have to vacate office to allow. But for a person who has not been told we are investigating you, and I think the investigative wings have a right to investigate without telling the person. You can't tell a person you are investigating that we are investigating you. And if that person doesn't know, then you can't ask them to leave office. After all, they don't know what you are looking for. So indeed, in this transparency, it doesn't mean that everything the investigative wing takes on, people must resign. No. Or people must be fired. No. Now, the Honourable went to the consent judgment, that they are consent judgment without court processes. Is that a true, Counsel? No. The little I know. Colleagues, let me speak the little I know. I don't want to declare myself like Honourable Mpundu to say I am a lawyer. Otherwise, he will take me to the bench and I will not fit. But from the little that I know, you cannot give a consent judgment without court process. Yeah. Basically, yeah, that is what I know. Basically, this consent judgment comes out because prosecution has failed. This is what I understand. When prosecution has failed, that means now the person who was alleged to have committed a crime or punished wrongly has the right to claim. So it is important. That's why even when you say, my honorable son, even when you say people must be arrested, you end up arresting so many, and at the end of the day, you lose cases, then they will ask for, for compensation. That is not the way you want to go. So this, I know, comes through a court process, where the court has declared a person, for example, who was, beaten, who was imprisoned, who was battered, in court proven innocent. That's when it goes to the claim, and then the claim there is consent. Thank you, Madam.
The Honorable Member for Kwacha.
Madam Speaker, I appreciate the opportunity given, and also let me thank our Vice President, Your Honor, for the statement that you presented on the floor of the House. Following the resignation of the Director General from Anti-Corruption Commission, Your Honor, there have been a lot of assertions and speculations from some sections of the Zambian society, indicating that the corruption now has increased than the corruption that was previously witnessed. I would like Your Honor to indicate, going by your experience, because you have been long in government for some time, and you are able to make comparisons. I would like you to look at that statement and probably vindicate this government, because me personally, I don't believe corruption has gone up, but I would like to hear it from you, from the government side. Thank you, Your Honor.
Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Kwacha, for that.
Order on my left.
The Honorable Member for Kwacha, Madam Speaker, says there is an assertion in the public that corruption has increased in the country. I think it is difficult, Honorable, for me to say from my experience. The only way we can say it has increased or it has not, all of us think that it is going down. But Honorable Simumba.
Order, honorable members.
Honorable Simumba, sit up, Mwana. The only way this can be proved, no way. No way.
Order, honorable members, don't debate while seated.
Thank you, Madam. The point I'm making is that that is a very difficult question, or indeed response, from standing here. Because the issue to prove whether more or less, it depends on how many cases have been prosecuted and how many have been found guilty, and from which time were those crimes committed. Because even if we say this year we have convicted 10, Madam, not that I know they are 10. If we say 2024, 10 cases have successfully been prosecuted and found guilty. But in 2020, 5 cases were prosecuted and were also found guilty. You will have to look at when were these cases, 10 cases, committed. Maybe they were committed in 2018, because these cases don't end. So it is difficult. You have to go to the books, to the courts, and be able to tell that so many cases were committed, prosecuted, and convicted. So this year had more cases, and therefore a higher indicator of higher corruption. As I'm here, I just believe that we are fighting corruption, and it is my prayer that together we fight, and we end it. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The people of Lundazi, to make a follow-up question to this hateful topic. Madam Speaker, the hero at this point is Dr. Kaba and our own Lumezi Member of Parliament for bringing out this evil which is obtaining in our country. Corruption will dwindle the belief that the donors have for our country, Zambia. And it is not good that even in the new dawn, it is now even escalating. Her Honor, the Vice President, the question that I have for you is, these DGs, their names are brought here, they are ratified, money is spent on them, and apart from that, the boards, they come to Parliament and they are ratified, money is spent for these people to get to offices. And once they are discovered that they are stealing, the only thing that they do is to just resign just like that. Madam Speaker, why is the UPND government so reactive and not proactive in dealing with people who are occupying these offices? I submit, Madam Speaker.
Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Member for Lundazi for that observation. I totally appreciate what you are saying. And of course, you have whom you are calling heroes. I don't want to debate individuals, particularly who are not in the House. Yes, Honourable Member for Lumezi has brought it to the House. But remember, there are other members that could bring it to the House. Yet, in bringing this, it is something that we are discussing. It cannot dwindle the confidence of people that are working with us. Because the people that are working with us are also looking at following how these cases are moving. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member says they just can't resign like that. What option do you have? I think I said here, whether you resign, Honourable Nkana, whether you resign, whether you fire, it is not the end of the matter. Because at the end of the day, with evidence, because you don't prosecute without evidence. Even in other jurisdictions, if you have a matter, even the police, they will have to confirm with the prosecutors to see whether this is prosecutable. It's not just because you have heard, then you take to court. So let us take our time. Oh, my tempo is up. I want you to hear. Thank you for bringing me down. But I hope you do understand, Honourable. Yes, whether one resigns, you know, I spoke in my language because I don't know, Honourable. What is it in law?
There is no statute of
very good. Of limitation. If you have committed a crime, it goes on. They will prosecute you after 20 years. Yes. There is no
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to present a bill titled the Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2024. The object of this bill is to amend the Civil Aviation Authority Act 2012 so as to A. Enhance civil aviation safety and security. B. Provide clarity on the manner and form of applications for...
Order. Those that are moving, please walk out quietly. We've got a lot of work to do. Just move out quietly. Honorable Member Fonkanda, you haven't been given the floor. And don't debate while seated. The Honorable Minister of Transport and Logistics, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The object of this bill is to amend the Civil Aviation Authority Act 2012 so as to A. Enhance civil aviation safety and security. B. Provide clarity on the manner and form of applications for certificates and licenses in aviation. C. Provide for the transfer of the functions of the Civil Aviation Authority over a Zambian registered aircraft engaged in international navigation to a member state of the International Civil Aviation Organization. And D, Madam Speaker, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2024.
Honorable members, it seems we are not serious with the business of the House today. Those that feel they don't want to participate in the business of the business today, please walk out, so that we leave members that are serious, members that are representing their people. We need order. The bill stands referred to the Committee on Cabinet Affairs. The committee is required to submit its report on the bill to the House by Wednesday, 31st July 2024. Honorable members who wish to make submissions on the bill are free to do so within the program of work of the committee. Next bill. The Honorable Minister of Transport and Logistics.
Madam Speaker, I beg to present a bill titled the Civil Aviation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill 10 of 2024. The object of this bill is to amend the Civil Aviation Act 2016 so as to A. Enhance civil aviation safety, and B. Provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Civil Aviation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2024.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on Cabinet Affairs. The committee is required to submit its report on the bill to the House by Wednesday, 31st July 2024. Honorable members who wish to make submissions on the bill are free to do so within the program of work of the committee. We make progress. Questions for oral answer under Standing Order number 80. The Honorable Member for Mwinilunga.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question number 389.
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Mr. N. Samakai, MP for Mwinilunga, is asking the Minister of Health, A, when the construction of the following health centers in Mwinilunga district will commence. 1. Kakula in Chimbwika Chiefdom. 2. Kasapula in Kakoma Chiefdom. 3. Kalumbinga in Kakoma Chiefdom? B, what the cause of the delay in commencing the project is? Madam Speaker, our response is as follows. The construction of the following health centers in Milunga district, namely Kakula, Kalumbinga, will commence as soon as the current procurement processes for the contractor are concluded. To be, Madam Speaker, the House may wish to note that the 3 health centers are part of the 650 health post project. Madam Speaker, the delay was caused by failure of government in 2020 to pay the counterpart funding towards the project amounting to $5.9 million US. Therefore, the contractor demobilized in the year 2020, citing non-payment of fees. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Supplementary questions? The Honorable Member for Mwinilunga.
Yeah, Minister, the people of Mwinilunga deserve to know exactly when this procurement process will be attained, because we are talking about a project that has taken so long, and my people would want to know, when has the process commenced, the process of procurement, and if it has, when exactly do we expect, because now we are getting into rain season, and some of these places I've mentioned, Karumbinga and Kasampula, you can't go there in October once it starts raining. That place is usually cut off. So when is the process commencing so that these people can move and work maybe for 2 months or so? Minister, when is this process commencing?
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question, although your question has ably been answered. Because firstly, Madam Speaker, these health posts did not come free. There was money that was supposed to be paid by the government of the Republic of Zambia. And so what happened, as you will note, a number of these health posts didn't complete, and Mwinilunga and some of the unfortunate districts are the ones. Was that government was supposed to pay a counterpart funding of $5.9 million. So you know our economic condition that we found as the New Dawn government when we took over. We found debts, which the president spent the first 2 years running from Zambia to all over the country, begging to ensure that this debt is set aside. So, for one to state that when you know the story, it's a bit unfair in my view. I've already said that now the process has started. What that means is that the counterpart funds, apart from the counterpart funds, I want you also to know, Minister, Honorable, that the Zambian government, apart from paying the $5.9 million, the contractor had demobilized. So for him to remobilize and come back again, that was money. He wanted money, compensation. Okay? So he claimed compensation of about $3 million just for coming back. Okay? However, after negotiations through the Ministry of Finance, the claim was reduced to $2.1 million, which was to be paid in installments because the resources were not just there. So far, $700,000 has been paid to the contractor by the Ministry of Finance for him just to come back. In the meantime, the contract with Jaguar Overseas had expired, and therefore currently the procurement processes are ongoing to engage the contractor on the new terms and conditions to allow the completion of the remaining 17 health posts. You know the consequences. You know what we are talking about. Standing health posts was terminated by Minister of It is hoped that once the approvals from various stakeholders, who include Minister of Justice and Attorney General, the contractor will remobilize within this year, 2024. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Mitete.
Madam Speaker, the tail end of the answer tends to answer my question to say, is it going to be within this year? As Minister, you are aware that these hospitals, or mini hospitals, some of them in Mwenilonga, like in Mitete as well, they shall have to start all over again. And the need is so dear, as you may know. So, Minister, just, Madam Speaker, just to hear the Minister once more again, are we going to see Jaguar going back on the sites in Mwenilonga and many other, like Mitete, within this year?
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable. Madam Speaker, this issue has been adequately answered because, as we know by now, our province projects were left uncompleted. And this government has taken over that issue, and we have tried within the difficult budget allocations to ensure that these contractors are brought back. But like I said, those contracts expired because that contract was supposed to run, I think, up to 2020. They should have finished all the 650. That was the contract. But it didn't because there was failure to pay the counterpart funding. And so that's what we have tried to do. This is why, if you recall, I did indicate that the policy of government, this government was, let us finish those contracts because government is continuous, otherwise we'll lose even more. But you know these contractors, especially when they're standing on firm ground, that it is government that has defaulted, it's not normally that easy. And also the rules, the ZPPA rules, have also been a problem. This is why this government has tried to amend those rules, because then you have to restart the whole unless you are getting the same contractor. But we are committed as government to complete, and we are very hopeful that this year these projects will be, they will complete them. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Dundumwezi.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to make a follow-up. Madam Speaker, the people of Mwenilonga are grappling with health issues just because of the previous regime that terminated these loans prematurely. Honorable Minister, I want to state that in Dundumwezi, no single health post was constructed. All we heard was the loans were terminated. What is your advice to the people of Zambia against those who terminated the contracts, leaving the people of Mwenilonga and Dundumwezi grappling with health issues? Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. The point I want to make to the, using this opportunity, advice we have to the people of Zambia, is just to advise the people of Zambia that this administration is an administration that was to ensure that development cuts across all the 10 provinces, all the 116 districts, and that President Hakainde Hichilema has made a decision, deliberately so, in trying to unite this country to ensure that development should not be based on who is the president at a given time or who is the minister of a particular sector at a time. That we must ensure that when we make decisions, we look at the whole country. And that is what we are doing as UPND, to ensure that when we do anything, it must be shared equally and fairly. And so we want to assure the people of Zambia that they have the right government and they should not be swayed by people who themselves put this country where it is, people who are running their checks and balances through fake propaganda to confuse the people of Zambia. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Namwala.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker. Through you to the Minister. Minister, could we know, after your submission that you've made, the total?
No, you may continue.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker. What was the total amount for the project, and if at all we are to resume the work, how much do you think it will cost government to have those 3 posts built? Madam Speaker, thank you.
The Minister comes in. There is an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member for Pambashi.
Madam Speaker, standing order number 71. And this culture, Madam Speaker, by that Minister of Health of insulting and demeaning other members is growing. And that Minister of Health, Madam Speaker, must be told that she's drawing a salary that all of us are contributing. The other day, she called a member of parliament for Mushindam at somebody whose name I don't know. And today she stands up and demeaning all of us to say we are providing fake checks and balances. Is the minister in order to continue demeaning the fellow members of parliament with the highest level of impunity without being reprimanded? I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Pambashi, when you are bringing up a point of order, please try to be specific. But what I can say is that when the ministers are providing answers, please let's just try to go straight to the answer without getting other members, because there are so many people that are listening to the responses that you are giving. So let's try to work as a team. Let's try to understand each other. We are one. The Honorable Minister of Health, I don't know whether you still remember the question by the Honorable Member for Namwala. The Honorable Member for Namwala, please repeat your question.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question was, I wanted to find out from the Minister, what was the total cost of the project in Minilunga? And if at all we had to go back to the same project, what is the estimated cost for the same, I submit?
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. First of all, is to say that once the government of the day then in 2020 failed to meet their counterpart funding, the contractor moved away from site. And when the contractor moved away from site, to come back, he claimed compensation. So obviously already that's an extra cost. Besides that, you know, with the devaluation, when you take long to complete a project, obviously that project at the end of the day, the cost will not be the original cost. Suffice to say that the exact amount of money may not be known now for me to say. I have to counter check. But all I know is that all these projects, that have taken long to be completed outside the time, definitely it means that there will be an extra cost. And in this particular one, we've already said that they demanded for 3 million, but Ministry of Finance renegotiated and brought the amount to 2.1. And even this 2.1, we have asked for a staggered installment, and that's what has happened. And like I said, we are only just waiting for Ministry of Justice to look at the reviewed contracts, so they, to ensure that they're in line with the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Notice of motion, the Honorable Member for Momba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the House adopts the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the review of the 2023 Annual Progress Report on the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan for the 3rd session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on 17th July 2024.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Lundazi. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the review of the 2023 Annual Progress Report on the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan for the period 2022 to 2026 for the 3rd session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 17th July 2024. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Momba.
Madam Speaker, 104, the committee considered the annual progress report on the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan. The year 2023, Madam Speaker, marked the 2nd year of implementation of the plan, which sets forth Zambia's strategic direction for the period 2022 to 2026. Madam, allow me to commend the Minister of Finance and National Planning for adhering to the provisions of the National Planning and Budgeting Act No. 1 of 2020 and for submitting to the National Assembly the annual progress report on time. However, the committee observes with concern that implementation of the 8th National Development Plan in 2023 faced huge financing gaps in the implementation of the various pillars and consequently failed to attain the set targets. Madam Speaker, from the onset, I wish to remind the August House that the review of the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan provides an opportunity to reassess progress made against the set benchmarks toward the realization of Zambia's long-term vision of becoming a prosperous middle-income nation by 2030. It also gives the House an opportunity to appreciate the prevailing trends that may have an impact on actualizing the vision. Madam Speaker, I'm confident that my honorable members of Parliament have had occasion to peruse the report of the committee. I will therefore only highlight very few salient issues. Number 1, Madam Speaker, the failure by stakeholders to participate in financing of the 8th National Development Plan. Madam, the 8th National Development Plan is expected to be financed from a combination of sources, among them domestic revenues, the private sector, public sector, private partnerships, and cooperating partners. However, during the period under review, the committee noted with concern the inadequate participation of cooperating partners and the private sector to fund various programs of the 8th National Development Plan. This affected both the financing and implementation of various programs. The House will agree that ineffective financing of the 8th National Development Plan affects the attainment of set targets, which has a negative impact on meeting the government's objectives of economic transformation. This eventually affects the country's economic growth and domestic resource mobilization. In view of this, the committee urges the executive to put in measures to ensure that cooperating partners who pledge to provide counter-funding for the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan do so. Further, Madam Speaker, the executive should create a conducive environment for the effective participation of the private sector. Number 2, Madam Speaker, establish the ZCCM Investments Holdings as a statutory mining company under an Act of Parliament. Madam Speaker, the committee takes note that the mining sector continues to be a backbone of the economy and a major contributor to the country's gross domestic product and foreign exchange inflows. However, the committee is concerned with the amount of revenue being lost from the mining sector through transferring pricing. This is because the government only has minority shareholding in most mining companies and has no major influence on most of the decisions made. This state of affairs tends to benefit the investors more to the detriment of the ordinary Zambians with regard to benefits accrued from the mining endowment. The committee therefore recommends that the government should consider changing the ownership of ZCCMIH and make it a statutory body established by an Act of Parliament. As the case is in Botswana and DRC. Additionally, Madam Speaker, the ZCCMIH should have a shareholding of not less than 49% in all greenfield mines in order to contribute to decision-making regarding not only mineral revenues but also the management of the mines. The committee also recommends that mining firms wishing to invest in Zambia should go through the ZCCMIH by following mining regulations. The third one, Madam Speaker, environmental sustainability and irrigation development. Madam Speaker, the committee observes with concern that the country remains vulnerable to effects of climate change which have affected key economic sectors, thereby significantly impacting productivity and economic growth. However, Madam Speaker, the environmental sustainability pillar in the 8th National Development Plan continues to receive the least financing among the pillars of the 8th National Development Plan. In this regard, the committee recommends for sustainable financing towards climate mitigation and adaptation, in addition to long-term measures which will reduce the impact of climate change over the economy. Madam Speaker, in light of the effects of climate change on the agriculture sector, which is a key driver of economic growth, the committee recommends that the establishment and rehabilitation of dams in various farm blocks should be expedited, as this will facilitate irrigation, development, and water harvesting. The fourth one, Madam Speaker, is tourism development. Madam Speaker, during the period under review, domestic tourism performed poorly compared to the international tourism subsector. The committee observes that no effective measures have been established in the country to market and promote domestic tourism in order to contribute to the country's domestic resource mobilization objectives. The committee therefore recommends that the government should put in place deliberate measures to sustain and promote domestic tourism. In addition, Madam Speaker, to promoting private sector participation in domestic tourism, as this can contribute to job creation and consequently spur economic growth. Number 5, and the last one, Madam Speaker, is that over-dependence on donor funding. Madam, for a long time now, Zambia has continued to grapple with over-dependence on donor funding for financing of key interventions in health, education, and social protection. The lack of sustainability in financing of programs such as social cash transfer, educational infrastructure, and antiretroviral drugs for people living with HIV, which are financed by donors, is of great concern. Madam, overdependence on donors to finance such key programs poses security risks in financing, as donors can decide to stop the funding at any time, thereby affecting livelihoods of many Zambians due to lack of sustainable local financing mechanism. In view of the above, Madam Speaker, the committee recommends that the sustainable financing measures should, as a matter of priority, be put in place to finance key programs, such as the ones I have already mentioned, through locally generated resources instead of depending on foreign donors. Madam Speaker, I'm confident that the government will take decisive and progressive action on the recommendations made by your committee. The committee is grateful for your continued support and guidance as it carries out its mandate. This gratitude also extends to the office of the clerk. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving a chance to the people of Lundazi to second this ably moved motion by the chairperson of the committee, Honorable Jatira, who has sought the House to adopt the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on review of 2023 Annual Progress Report on the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan. Madam Speaker, considering that the Chair has spoken to most of the issues, allow me to just speak to a few salient issues which he may not have touched or emphasized on. Madam Speaker, whilst we were interacting with the witnesses, the issue of tourism development came about. The issue of reintroduction of visa fees. Madam Speaker, in agreeing with the chairperson of the committee, who has said the government should put in place deliberate measures to sustain and promote domestic tourism, it would be also important that we look at some of the policies which were pronounced by the Minister of Tourism. The issue of putting off visa fees is one of the hanging fruits that we could have taken advantage of. The Chair has ably mentioned that it was difficult to support some of the programs in the 8th National Development Plan due to donor fatigue or maybe donors not being able to fulfill their part. Madam Speaker, we as a nation, we need to realize that soon or later we may not be able to get funding from donors. Hence, there is an issue of us really looking at funding our own programs. Madam Speaker, the other issue that I would want to speak to is the issue of inadequate funding for RIA projects and delayed funding. Madam Speaker, the interaction that we had with RIA, they were able to state that they would do more if at all funding was sufficient. Not only sufficient, but part of the funding comes at the year end, whereby even if the money came in, it would be very difficult for them to use. Madam Speaker, in stating an example, they indicated that in 2022, there was an allocation of 360 million initially, which was increased to 740 million in 2023. However, to receive this funding, it took long than necessary. Madam Speaker, the other issue that we encountered as your committee was the issue of preference for grid power to solar energy. Madam Speaker, as we toured Southern Province and a particular constituency, we realized that they had already been connected to the solar energy. But when the grid came, they also chose to also get connected to the grid. This made us as a committee to wonder why they couldn't appreciate that they were already connected to the solar energy and not allow the other people to be connected to the national grid. So the issue of preference and also the low voltage in the solar panels has made our people to have double connections where they are connected to the solar panels and then they would wish to get connected to the solar energy. Madam Speaker, the other issue that was encountered by the committee was lack of requisite infrastructure to fully operationalize the farm blocks. Madam Speaker, when we visited Serenge farm blocks and other farming blocks where we had gone, it was a bit of a challenge because where in the house or in the budget it is indicated that money has been allocated to the farm blocks so that the roads and other infrastructure can be developed. When we went on the ground, Madam Speaker, we found that nothing was obtaining except for a few works which had been done for national service, especially in Serenge. Madam Speaker, the real elephant that was in the room over this implementation of the annual borrowing plan was failure by ZRA to meet some of its obligations due to the little amounts which are being contributed by the mines. Madam Speaker, most of the submissions indicated that as Zambia, we need to realize what we have and be able to utilize it fully so that we can be able to benefit from the minerals which we have in this country, Zambia. Madam Speaker, with these few remarks, I would want to appreciate the members of the committee and also the chairperson who allowed us to interact freely with the witnesses who appeared before your committee. And we want to appreciate your office for allowing us to undertake this very important assignment. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Any further debate? The Honorable Member Fonkana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Planning and Budget Committee has reviewed the 2023 Annual Progress Report on the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan. Madam Speaker, I want to restrict my conversation around the report, page number 33, which speaks to the establishment of ZCCMIH as a government mining company under statutory regulation. Madam Speaker, the committee notes that the mining sector continues to be the backbone of the economy and a major contributor to the country's GDP and foreign exchange inflows. It is an undeniable fact, Madam Speaker, that Zambia has predominantly existed through the mining sector and the copper mining sector in that regard. This country has been mining for over 100 years, and government was a major player in the mining sector through ZCCM. Madam Speaker, there are a lot of lessons that have to be drawn from what happened in the days of ZCCM. Predominantly, ZCCM built Zambia. We who have grown up on the copper belt, almost all the towns on the copper belt were built by the mining company that was owned exclusively by government. Of course, there are lessons that have to be drawn. There was a lot of mismanagement that saw the World Bank and IMF dictating to us through the Structural Adjustment Program that we must let go of ZCCM or the participation of government in those mining companies. Many years down the line, Madam Speaker, we are asking ourselves, how has Zambia, which is so rich in mineral endowment, failed to harness this potential we have? That today we continue to go to beg or to go to bed with the same people that gave us conditions that saw us relinquish our stake in the mining sector. Interestingly, Madam Speaker, your committee today is making a recommendation that government must endeavor to have more stake in mining companies. Because when government has more stake in the mining companies, it will enable government to have efficient monitoring mechanism in how these mining companies are performing. Madam Speaker, there's been a revelation that has been made by many players, particularly from ZRA, that it has been very difficult and very proven that it is difficult to, comprehensively audit and tax mining companies, particularly the copper mining, companies. And for many years, these mining companies have been coming to beg or to entice government to give them concessions, to give them tax holidays, on the pretext that if you give them concessions and tax holidays, they are going to make more investments. It led to the UPND government making the infamous decision of making the mineral royalty deductible, on the promise that these, our cooperating partners, or these, mining conglomerates, were going to make more meaningful investment in the mining sector. Alas, today as we speak, Madam Speaker, we haven't seen any meaningful investment in the mining sector. The opposite has been happening, where jobs are being lost when they actually promised that if we give them those concessions, they were going to employ more people. When this committee, Madam Speaker, is making a recommendation that government must have more stake in the mining sector, the UPND government is doing the opposite. We are the stake in FQM, the golden share. Government decided, the UPND government decided to convert that share into cash. Today, we don't even have any stake in FQM. This committee is making a recommendation that we must have more presence, more stake in the mining sector, because it will enable us to have more control. Mopani would have been a model mine because we owned it 100%. It would have been a model mine. Would have seen how these mining companies dupes us, because Mopani would have been a mirror mine where we would have been seeing how a mining company operates. Our friends makes a very reckless decision to give away Mopani 51% to a company they are calling IH. But in essence, it's not even IH, Madam Speaker. It's Delta. There is a report of fraud around that transaction. No wonder that did not come into this parliament, because people were trying to hide that fraudulent activity. Madam Speaker, enough of the copper mining. Madam Speaker, for me, I've always insisted that we've been duped around the copper mining sector. Why haven't we focused on these other mining facets? The committee makes mention of gold. Madam Speaker, ZCCM-IH established the Zambia Gold Company. The Zambia Gold Company was established exclusively to manage gold resources. As the PF were leaving power, Zambia Gold Company had already started processing gold bullions, and they were exclusively selling to the Bank of Zambia. I don't know whether that gold is still at the Bank of Zambia, but the idea of the Zambia Gold Company was to manage the gold resources. Today, Zambia has discovered gold in almost the entire country, starting from Kasenseli, all the way to Mpika, to Mukushi, all the way to...
Order. Honorable members, please, I'm so reluctant to take points of order because we have ministers who are going to respond. The honorable ministers, please take note of whatever is being said so that you respond. This is going to be the last point of order. We have to complete this report. There's another report that we didn't complete yesterday. So let us, as we debate, let's be focused to the report. The report is straightforward. If we didn't read it, please let's even avoid debating so that we are not off the report. Let us stick to the report. The honorable member for Chama South. That is the last point of
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if you have noticed, I've decided to be a good listener in this House. Our standing orders are very clear that the information that we are providing on the floor of this House should not only be factual but verifiable. The honorable member for Nkana has made a very, very disturbing revelation. And I will state it. He has indicated that Mopani sale to IH Holding is actually not even a sale to IH Holding, but Delta something. Meaning he has actually stated that there is fraud. This is not a simple statement. Is he in a position to bring more information on the floor of this House? We are all interested in knowing, because we can't have a government that is involved in fraud. That is the accusation, and it's a serious accusation. Is he in a position to share more information with us honorable members so that we judge the government rightly? I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
Honorable member, I had guided to say we should stick to the report. How we found ourselves mentioning things which need evidence, we don't know. Can we please be focused? There's a report, very comprehensive report. The honorable member for Nkana, do you have evidence of what you said?
Madam Speaker, everybody on the left except for Mungandu knows what I'm talking about.
Honorable member for Nkana, I think you are not really answering me. I said, do you have evidence, not
Yes,
what
Mungandu
was talking, the Honorable Mungandu was talking about?
I organize that, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable member for Nkana, if you don't have evidence, just withdraw that statement so that we make progress.
Madam Speaker.
If the evidence is not there,
Madam
just
Speaker,
withdraw, we make progress.
The partnership at Mopani is with Delta and not IRH. That's a fact. And that information I can present to you, Madam Speaker. It's in public domain. It's in public domain,
The
Madam
issue
Speaker.
of the fraud, Honorable member. The Honorable member for Nkana, since you don't have the evidence, just like the other member, was it the Honorable member for Lunte who didn't have evidence? I think just withdraw, we make progress. Sorry, it's just an example. Just withdraw. There are so many areas that you can debate
Madam Speaker,
about.
I will not withdraw this statement. I am very convinced of what I'm talking about. If you give me time, I'll present that information. I'm speaking to a report, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable member for Nkana, we've got rules. If something requires evidence, you lay it on the table. We make progress. If you don't have it now, withdraw it and then we make progress. Let's not waste time. We are behind time, Honorable member for Nkana.
Madam Speaker, you are making this a very difficult debate. ZNBC reported this transaction.
The Honorable
in
member
public
for
domain.
Nkana, I don't want to curtail you. Just do like I'm saying so that you make progress.
Okay, I withdraw that aspect, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Just proceed.
Before I was interrupted by Mungandu, who is blank about what's happening in this country, I was talking to the issue of gold resources. And government through ZCCMIH established Zambia Gold Company to manage gold resources. There is gold dotted around the country, Madam Speaker, which must be harnessed for the betterment of this country. There's no way Zambia, 60 years of independence, we must be trotting to the IMF to borrow when we are endowed with all these gold resources, Madam Speaker. It speaks to prudency in the management of resources. I've always argued, Madam Speaker, I've always argued, when KK discovered emeralds, it declared Lufuanyama as a protected area because gold then became a resource that needs to be managed by government. What is wrong with us declaring gold, declaring sujite, and all these lucrative minerals to be state minerals so that they can be managed through special purpose vehicles like the Zambia Gold Company that was exclusively designed to manage this resource called gold for the betterment of our country. Some of the people, Madam Speaker, who are allowed in here today are the ones that have been making reckless decisions to an extent of allowing $2.5 billion being siphoned out of this country from the mining sector in Kansanshi. We must be prudent in the way we are managing our resources if Zambia is to regain its economic glory. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member from Pika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, the 8th National Development Plan is the compass that guides our developmental course. However, Madam Speaker, it's very disheartening to note that the implementation has faced numerous challenges. Madam Speaker, for us to fully implement the 8th National Development Plan, resources have to match our plan. And where do we get the resources? God has blessed this country with abundant natural resources, minerals, land, and other things. However, Madam Speaker, we ourselves tend to mismanage the God-given resources. I will cite an example, Madam Speaker. Mining companies are on tax holidays, Madam. To 3 million metric tons per year. However, Madam Speaker, the report tells us that in 2023, copper production in the regarding ZCCM. Just that government was in the process of government state, because we know this Zambia Madam CCM's shares in FQM were converted without even bringing the matter to Parliament. If that is not corruption, Madam Speaker, then what is it? This is the more reason why we are having challenges implementing the 8th National Development Plan, because we do not have matching resources. We have mismanaged our natural resources. Madam Speaker, when you check, perhaps, Madam Speaker, let me also state, instead of establishing Zambia Minerals Corporation, please establish a value addition industry which will also create jobs, which the 8th National Development Plan seek to do. We cannot be exporting our minerals year in, year out in its raw form. Jobs are being created in countries where our minerals are being exported. Today, you are opening routes almost everywhere for you to export raw minerals for the benefits of foreign countries. Madam Speaker, on page 15 of this report, the report talks about increased access to quality health care. Madam Speaker, our people today are being given prescriptions every day. The only pharmacies where they are finding drugs are those pharmacies on Nima. Government facilities do not have enough drugs, Madam Speaker. Just yesterday, Madam Speaker, we were discussing 61 containers that were corruptly diverted to a private warehouse in Makeni. At that time, our people in Mpika, our people in Chinsari were dying because there were no drugs in hospitals. Madam Speaker, These are the challenges that the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan face. Corruption, Madam Speaker, has hindered the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan. 13.5 billion kwacha stolen. Just like that, Madam Speaker. When our students, Madam Speaker, being paid 600 kwacha.
Point of order.
Madam Speaker.
The honorable member from Pika, some of the words you are using like stolen, please, they are unparliamentary. Very
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Can you stick to the report, honorable member?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was saying the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan face challenges induced by corruption. I even cited an example, Madam Speaker, of the 13.5 billion fraudulently transferred to Panama and other offshore accounts. Madam Speaker,
Madam Speaker.
When you talk of corruption, Madam Speaker, that 13.3 billion.
Honorable member from Pika, I had ruled that there are no points of order. Honorable member from Pika, why is it so difficult to stick to the report? Because even the examples, some of the examples that you are giving, they seem to be bringing controversy in the House. Can we please maybe try as much as possible to stick to the report?
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
If you can't stick to the report, honorable member from Pika, I won't allow you to continue. Just make sure that you are in line with the report.
Madam Speaker,
Point of order,
Madam Speaker, we are talking about the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan. And I'm reading what is on page 15 of the report, Madam Speaker. This is the report that I'm speaking to.
Order, honorable member. I had ruled that there are no more points of order. And I had requested that the honorable ministers actually will give you ample time to respond.
No, Madam Speaker, because
let's have a lot of ministers respond.
Madam Speaker,
the honorable member from Pika, for the last time, try to be in line with the report. Stick to the report. You may continue.
Madam Speaker, I was trying to highlight how corruption has impeded the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan, which is our compass in our developmental course, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just yesterday, we were told how 61 trucks were corruptly diverted to a private warehouse in Makeni, when our people, Madam Speaker, did not have access to drugs in hospitals, Madam Speaker. This is what I'm stating, and it's on page 15 of your report, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, may I be guided to continue if I'm on course? Madam Speaker, when you talk of the agriculture sector, which also the report talks about, it has also been impeded by corruption. The 13.5 billion kwacha, Madam Speaker, listed in the FIC fraudulently transferred to offshore accounts in Panama and other countries, Madam Speaker, would have been used to buy equipment. Madam Speaker, our people, our farmers in Mchinga province, they should not depend on strenuous tools for them to farm. They need tractors, Madam Speaker. That amount of money would have bought them thousands and thousands of tractors, and they would have become commercial farmers. Our small farmers would have become commercial farmers. But the money was stolen and taken to Panama, Madam Speaker. It is very disheartening, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's very disheartening. And I also thank the chairperson of the committee for highlighting the challenges that corruption has impeded on the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
The Honorable Member for Lufubu.
Can I say something?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's so good that you can give the opportunity to the people of Lufubu also to contribute on the budget. And particularly, Madam Speaker, the people of Lufubu wants to just specifically talk about the initiative of the government to make sure that resources are channeled to empower the people. Resources are channeled to help the people who have been hit seriously with the drought. Madam Speaker, the people of Lufubu are finding this supplementary budget something that is so important to them. Because, Madam Speaker,
the Honorable Member for Lufubu, we are looking at a report.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'm coming to that one. I'm coming to the report, but I'm starting from where we are saying, if you check in the report, there's issues of channeling the resources to also helping the people who've been hit by the drought. Madam Speaker, in the report, when you look at all these issues that are being brought forth, which some of them, when you look at them, actually they've got a trace way back to maybe 3, 4, 5 years. It's not even actually necessary for us to begin debating the issues of who did what, because the investigative wings are busy looking into that. But it's more important to look at what is it that the government is doing. What is it that government is doing to correct these problems that are in this report? Now, when you look at what the government has put in place in this report, when you look at what the government has put in place in order to be able to combat these problems and in order to be able to deal with all the loopholes that are highlighted in this report, Madam Speaker, it should be something that should be consoling to the government and to the people of Zambia, that at least we are moving in the right direction to be able to deal with most of these issues. And the good thing, all in all, Madam Speaker, is that the government is so determined to make sure that all the issues that are there and contained in this report are looked at seriously and are considered to be urgently dealt
All
with.
the honorable members on my left.
It just depends on where you are standing to look at this report, that you can, if you want, you can politicize it and use it to gain mileage. But also, on our side, it's very important that we support the report, and because we are able to see that the government is doing everything and they put in all mechanisms in order to be able to deal with these issues decisively. And it's so gratifying to see that this is just being done within the 3 years, when our friends failed to deal with it in 10 years. And this is a signal. This is a signal that we are moving in the right direction, and whether we like it or not, when a fight is fought in such a manner.
The honorable member for Chilubi, you don't have to shout. Don't debate while seated. Let the honorable member for Lufubu debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When a fight is fought in such a manner, we are guaranteed that the
The results might not come out today, but very soon the positive results will be there. And we will stand and we'll be happy to be part and parcel of the team that has dealt with the problem once and for all. Madam Speaker, the people of Rufubu wanted to contribute. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Mufulira.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I also want to thank the mover of the motion and the seconder for moving this motion, which is very important, anchoring the development of this country. Madam Speaker, let me start my debate by quoting what the report is saying. On page 32, among the committee's observations and recommendations on failure by stakeholders to participate in financing the 8th National Development Plan, the committee observes with concern the inadequate participation of cooperating partners and the private sector in various programs of the 8th National Development Plan, which affected both the financing and implementation of programs. Madam Speaker, we have seen that the performance of the implementation in 2023 was very poor, below 50%, mainly because of lack of funding, which the committee has also observed. Government did its part, contributed 48 billion, which was about 45%. The rest was expected to come from the cooperating partners, and they failed to come on board. Madam Speaker, what could have caused that? Basically, this is telling us, the donor fatigue in participating or helping this country develop. There are many reasons, Madam Speaker, which can lead to donor fatigue. Either the donors do not have the money themselves, or the donors have no confidence in the utilization of the money that they are giving. We have been talking about corruption, Madam Speaker, in this House. And if the donors are not comfortable giving their funding because of the corruption that we are seeing, then it will become very difficult for us to achieve our objectives. And that is why, Madam Speaker, going forward, we should not rely on having the significant portion of funding come from the donors. We must raise our own resources. This 8th National Development Plan is supposed to lead us to achieving our vision of becoming a prosperous middle-income country by 2030. But going by the downward trend, it is very difficult for us to achieve that. The Minister of Finance must ensure that we fund 100% of our own development plan. Otherwise, depending on the donors, we will not go anywhere. Madam Speaker, the report also tells us that the mining sector remains the backbone of this country in terms of revenue generation. But now, what is happening in terms of the managing of the mining sector, the report is very clear that we are not getting enough from the mining sector. Some of the things in the past we have spoken about here, Madam Speaker, in this House, advising the government how we should maximize the revenue that can come from the mining sector. But all our advice has not been taken. On page 6, Madam Speaker, of this report, there is an observation by the stakeholders why the revenue from the mines is not being maximized. The observation from the stakeholders as submitted is that the restructured mineral royalty regime for copper contributed to the negative performance. The mineral royalty in 2023 was expected to raise 9 billion. We raised 7 billion. And this is being attributed to the restructured mineral royalty regime. It was in this House, Madam Speaker, when we were debating the 2022 budget, when we were debating the 2023 budget, urging the Minister of Finance not to change the mineral royalty regime, because we saw the money that was being lost as a result of that change. And now, things are shown here. We are failing to raise our own revenue, and we even know where this revenue is going. We gave away the concessions to the mines before the mines could do their parts. The concessions that we have given to the mines have not resulted into anything positive. We have seen here how copper production has been going down. In 2023, it hit its lowest in 5 years. Despite all the concessions, despite all the changes that we have given in order to create an enabling environment, but it is not being reciprocated by the mining sector. It is time to revisit those conditions that we have given to the mines, especially this mineral royalty, because production is not going up.
Order, honorable member. As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for still watching Parliament Television. Business has been suspended for a 20 minutes break, and at the time business was being suspended, the